We need to look at legacy differently because we're looking at legacy all wrong. We cannot think about legacy in terms of us because it's about them. Generations down the line. We want to be able to give our kids or the next generation the space to unload those legacy burdens. We're entrepreneurs because we want to have a lifestyle for ourselves. And I think for any of the next generation, they want that lifestyle for themselves too. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fearless Family Business Podcast. It's a new podcast that I've started where I want to help you to inject some new life into your family business so that you can strengthen the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle that you desire. I'm Adam Hill. I am your host, and I'm a fourth-generation family business CEO who was born into really the family business life. And today, I want to talk about legacy. And legacy, of course, is a big word. Legacy encompasses a lot of things. But I've been to a lot of seminars, and I don't know how many family business seminars you've been to or workshops or any of those kinds of things. And at a lot of those seminars, they'll bring in a wealth planner or an attorney to talk about legacy planning. And now I want to qualify this. I want to provide a disclaimer that I am not an attorney. I am not a financial advisor, so do not take any of this as financial advice or legal advice. I'm simply a family business CEO who has an opinion, and I'd like to share it. But regarding legacy, a lot of those seminars that we see coming from the wealth advisors or the attorneys talk about legacy planning in terms of protecting the wealth or preserving the wealth, or how we pass that wealth on so that it doesn't get eaten up by taxes or things like that. And don't get me wrong, that's very important, to make sure that we're protecting the wealth. That is certainly a part of legacy. But the problem is that a lot of times that part of the legacy planning that may seem important to those of us who are passing on the wealth, it's also overshadowing a lot of the more important parts of legacy planning. And I think that that's a big problem. We need to look at legacy differently because we're looking at legacy all wrong. We miss those key parts of legacy, and we create unprepared generations. I really think that more important than the wealth transfer itself is how we prepare the next generation, how we prepare them to live the lives that they want to live, or the lives of working within the family business or outside of the family business, or how to even use that wealth as a tool to their advantage and for the best, for the greater good of our communities. That's the most important part of legacy, because frankly, legacy is not about us. Our legacy is not about us. And when we think about the wealth first, we're thinking about us. Or when we think about what we want our kids to do on our behalf, we're thinking about us. And we cannot think about legacy in terms of us because it's about them. Generations down the line. Those that will be doing the good work generations from now. That's who we have to prepare. That's what we have to think about when it comes to legacy. So think about these two. I want you to imagine two scenarios. The first scenario is you create a perfect wealth transfer plan. You plan it so perfectly that there are going to be no taxes taken out. In fact, hey, the federal government's going to give you money as a big return upon your death and the transfer of that wealth. You transfer it perfectly to the kids so all of them are happy and that there's no resentment or anything like that. Everything happened perfectly, perfect harmony. And then the second scenario is that you have an imperfect wealth transfer, that in fact, all of that money is taken from taxes. They take it all. The government takes all of your money, and you have nothing left for your kids at the time because it was such a poor wealth transfer. But you prepared your kids really well. You prepared your kids. You taught them well. You gave them the tools to succeed. which one of those scenarios do you think is more valuable for the next generation? Well, if any of the previous, if we've learned anything from history, we've learned that it's really the preparation that is the key. When you look at the Vanderbilts and how they passed on their wealth to the point where all of that wealth was destroyed within a series of generations, they were the wealthiest family in the world, arguably. But and we hear that time and time again, where we go from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, or what have you, or that 90% of generational wealth is eaten up in 3 generations, and all of that despite our best efforts to pass on that wealth effectively. Again, it's not about the wealth transfer. I argue it is about the preparation of our kids. So, I want to talk a little bit about some of the different the other parts of legacy that we don't often talk about. And again, it starts with the mindset of the generation that is providing the legacy, the passing down generation, the generation that is currently in the ownership of whatever the business or what have you. The mindset there has to be about where the legacy lies. And again, the legacy is not about you. The legacy is not about you. It is about generations down the line and the greater good that they can do. And if we can put our mindset in that perspective of thinking about the future generations and what they can do with the tools and resources, we start to think about it a little bit differently. We think about the mindset that we want to pass on to our kids. And so when we think about that mindset, we want to pass on a mindset of, do we want to pass on a mindset of abundance or scarcity? Now, I argue that there's a number of ways that we can pass on a scarcity mindset. And one of those ways is when we think about only the wealth. When we start looking at the wealth as the biggest part of our legacy plan, that's when we start to have a scarcity mindset. Because that number, however many zeros that wealth number has, or those asset value has, that has a finite value. And that creates a sense of scarcity, creates a scarcity mindset. So then the challenge is how do we create a mindset of abundance? And that's where we can create a world beyond just the wealth. It really becomes like, what do you want to create? What do you want to build? Whom do you want to become? That's where the preparation comes in. And how do we prepare our kids? And we have to remember that our kids, or the kids of the next generations, don't necessarily want to run your business. And that's true throughout multiple generations, through multi-generational family businesses. If you're a founder generation, if you're the first generation and you have a relationship with your kids and it's a great relationship, chances are that they have a good grasp. If you've prepared them well, they have a good understanding of what your vision for your business, for your legacy, for all of that is, if you've prepared them well. And they're really close because you can tell them directly. Now, second to third generation, that founder vision might be a little bit lost because now it comes through the second generation. And those kids might have a relationship with their grandparents. And that's all well and good. I mean, so that they can learn that from them. But it's starting to get a little cloudier. And third to fourth generation, that's where it starts to get really cloudy. Now, the founder of our company was my great-grandfather. And the only memory that I have of my great-grandfather, I did meet him, so I knew him. But the only memories that I have of my grandfather is the silhouette of a towering man standing in a hallway at one of our family events. And he was just looking, I think he was smiling at the time, but it was just this really blurry vision. That's really the only connection, physical connection, that I have with my great-grandfather. Who started this company, whose values and vision that I'm supposed to continue to project throughout the company, and so we have to have a mechanism to keep a connection with that founder vision, while also giving the space and the capacity to look forward and evolve. So when we think about our core values and vision, we have to create a mechanism to not only keep hold of the founder vision, which is also part of that legacy, the founder vision of what we want for that business and what we want for whatever the assets are that we have in our possession, but also create a mechanism for how to create new vision, a vision that aligns with the world we live in now, and the world that we see for the future, that sets the platform and the foundation for the future generations. If we think about it that way, we can think about that founder generation, the founder of a company, as creating a foundation upon which we have the ability, because we have that foundation at our disposal, that gift, that legacy gift of that foundation, we have the ability to build on top of that what is fitting, what fits on top of it, and how and what is aligned with what we want to create. And so that goes along the lines of your kids want to create their own things. They want to have the freedom to create what they want. And that legacy is a foundation for them to do just that. It should not be an anchor to them to create what they want, because at that point it's an obligation and not a passion. What if legacy could be what if legacy didn't have to feel like an obligation? What if it can be driven by passion? Now, another part of that legacy that it helps to serve as that foundation is the family history and the heritage. And a good way to keep in touch with that is to make sure that the kids are directly involved in learning about that legacy and that heritage, almost like it's a history project. We put our kids in, when we put our kids in school, they have a history class. They learn about United States history, or they learn about world history. But do we really have a mechanism to learn about family history? I mean, I would argue some cases there's genealogy, and I think that may be an important project to put your kids through, is to start to not just teach them about it, but have them actively investigate it. Like, investigate the history, like find the clues to it, learn about it, go online, do 23andMe or whatever or Ancestry.com or whatever those kinds of genealogy projects may be. Learn about that family history and heritage, and then you can help fill in the gaps. It could be kind of a community family project. It also could be, if there is a strong relationship between the kids and the grandparents or the parents, could be an opportunity for them to interview, learn those communication skills, to interview the parents or the grandparents and learn about that past. Again, all with the purpose of creating the foundation for what can be their future. Family history and heritage, super important there. And in addition to learning some of the good things about family history and heritage, there's another part that we want to look at, which is the negative side of that, which is the legacy burdens. We want to be able to give our kids or the next generation the space to unload those legacy burdens. Those things might be the way we might have seen the world at certain times. It may be generational trauma associated with things that happened generations ago. These are real things that require real therapy. And that's why I think that when it comes to things like legacy burdens or generational conflict or generational trauma, it's good to have a relationship with a therapist that can understand these family dynamics. And I think that one of the things that I would recommend looking into is internal family systems, which I've found to be really great in terms of how to learn about the internal systems that you have, the different personalities that you have inside that can affect how you become on the outside. It's a great place to start, because just as we are working with or living with family, we're also dealing with a family of personalities on the inside that we need to get to know and learn to work with. And if you can learn to work well with the family systems inside, you can learn, from the family systems outside. And that all blends together well with unloading some of those legacy burdens that you might have. I also kind of sometimes call those legacy burdens sacred cows. Those are kind of the anti-core values that we have. I mean, when a founder has a set of core values, a lot of times over a long enough time, We see this in multi-generational family businesses. Over time, those sacred cows can become, those core values can become sacred cows, or they can lead into sacred cows. They can branch off into it. So we have to be careful. We have to have a mechanism and a process evaluating that with each generation to look at those core values and ask, how have we created sacred cows or anchors to future possibilities? Because ultimately, again, we don't want to anchor the next generation. We want to give them the freedom and the preparedness to move beyond those sacred cows. And then, of course, it does come down to the legacy part. Does come down to wealth preservation. That is an important part. Something that we do hear about a lot from attorneys and wealth managers and in family business seminars. But on the flip side of that, wealth preservation is something else the next generation has to learn that we don't talk about enough. And I think we need to present more of, which is value creation. How do we create a mindset around value creation? That's what the next generation is going to have to do. Just as each successive generation, whether it's the founder generation or the fourth generation, in their generation, in order for their business to have been successful, they have had to create additional value, not just maintain the wealth that they've had, but actually create additional value. For most of us, that's true. Maybe for people like the Rockefellers or whomever, where they have so much wealth that their biggest problem is how to get rid of it. Maybe that's not as true. I don't know. I don't have that much wealth, to be honest. But in reality, the value creation is going to be just as important to the next generation as it was to the previous generation. So how are we teaching our kids to create additional value for the successive generations? That's one of the things. Whether those kids are going to be working in the business or on their own projects. And then other parts of legacy, of course, include contribution and philanthropy, because what you give is really what you receive. And I think this is thankfully something we do talk a lot about in family business seminars, is how to set up philanthropic organizations. And I think that that's great, because family businesses account for more than 60% of the U.S. GDP by some estimates. And what that means is that there is over $8 trillion of family business money going into our economy. And a lot of that, coming back to us in terms of profits, needs to be given away in terms of our contributions or philanthropy. So teaching our kids how to be giving as well. I mean, not only should we just be developing those philanthropic organizations in our business, but as part of that legacy, we should be preparing our kids to be that giving as well. How are we doing that? Another part of legacy too that we don't talk about, this is something that we don't really assign to legacy, but I believe that it is an important part of it, is our health, our wellness, and our well-being. How are we taking care of our physical bodies? How are we taking care of our mental welfare? You may be asking, what does this have to do with legacy? Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of generational trauma that exists, and there's a lot of baggage that comes along with multi-generational family businesses. If you are a family member in a family business, you know what I'm talking about. There's quite frankly, there's simply a lot of weight that we carry on that. And so it is so vitally important that as we prepare ourselves in this world for the next generation, that we also prepare ourselves to take care of our health, especially our mental health. Addiction, in all of its forms, it runs rampant within family businesses and dynamics, and it could erode that legacy or that wealth that the founders have worked to build. So taking care and giving the tools and the resources to take care of mental health and physical health, along with the education to take care of those things, is very important to protecting that legacy and helping it grow. Because when you're mentally strong, when you're psychologically strong, when you're able to to take care of yourself from a psychological and a physical perspective, you are better equipped to create greater value in the future as well. And the final pieces of what legacy planning we should be preparing our kids for is the lifestyle design. Lifestyle is such a big part of why we get into the business that we get into. And what's interesting though is that we get into the family business because we maybe love our families. I hope that's a reason we do that. And we also want to, we want to create a legacy for ourselves selfishly, but we also want to prepare our kids, right? That's the nature of the legacy program. But we also want to get into business. We're entrepreneurs because we want to have a lifestyle for ourselves. And I think for any of the next generation, they want that lifestyle for themselves too. And that's something we have to offer an opportunity to provide is how do we produce the value and build the lifestyle? But a lot of us working in family businesses and working in really any business or any passion that we're driven towards, we tend to make our work our life, don't we? And that becomes our life. And we become workaholics, and that becomes the addiction that we feed over time. And that's not a healthy outcome for anybody. And it's not a legacy that you want to pass on to your kids. So the lifestyle part of it, the lifestyle part of it is not about Lamborghinis and extravagant parties or things like that. The lifestyle part of it is about living the abundance that you want to live, living the life that you want to live, experiencing the experiences you want to experience, while also creating tremendous value in the world, doing impactful work that impact the lives of others, that create that contribute to the greater good, while also giving you a livelihood that you love so that you can build the family that you love, so that you can spend the time with your family, so that you can propagate this entire legacy program. And if you could build these elements of legacy into your lifestyle, into your life, into your legacy planning, well, then that is just, it's a cycle that continues to grow. It's a virtuous cycle that continues to grow outward generation after generation. And it goes beyond just the transfer of wealth. It's how multi-generational families can thrive beyond just the next generation or 3 generations down the line. It's how they can continue to contribute value and contribute to the greater good of the society around them and build up their communities. And it builds up your kids and the next generations as leaders to create their own lives, to be self-determined, and not just continue the legacy of the founder, but really build the legacy for generations to come. So as you think about legacy, remember to think about legacy beyond just how you're going to transfer wealth to your kids, because that's insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Put deeper thought into how you can prepare your kids. What is the mindset that we're passing on to their kids? Is it scarcity or is it abundance? What are the values and the vision that you are projecting from the founder's vision and values? And how can we apply that to a new vision and new values for the future? Do you have a mechanism for breaking down the sacred cows that are anchoring you to the things that are holding your kids back? Are you giving them a healthy history of the family and their heritage? And are you giving them the opportunity to do the research on that? Are you teaching them not just about wealth preservation, but value creation? And are you teaching them about philanthropy and how they can contribute to the world? And how is their health and wellness? How is health and wellness incorporated into your legacy plan? And finally, how are you allowing the next generations and generations to come to live the lifestyle that they want to live, the life of adventure and abundance and love and building the families that they want? That's the legacy planning we got to focus on. So thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Fearless Family Business Show. If you're enjoying this show, please thumbs up this episode and subscribe wherever that subscribe button is. and you'll get more family business education and insights in your inbox. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, a colleague, a spouse, your mom, your dad, a second cousin, whomever you think might benefit from hearing this show. And if you're in a family business and you've got a great story to share, contact me, because I would love to see if you'd be a great fit for this show. I'd love to interview you. Or if you're struggling in your family business to find your unique identity or voice, or you need an injection of new life into your family business, I'd also love to hear from you. I'd love to learn more about you, and I'd love to see if I can help. Simply email me at adam@fearlessfamilybusiness.com, and we'll get you connected to the right place. Together, we can elevate the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle we all experience in our family businesses. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.